Welcome to the Life of Phys Podcast. I'm your host, Tyson Martin. On this episode, I have Monique Campbell, a Hamilton, Ontario-based street photographer and lecturer of candid and camera-aware people photography. Now let's hear a word from our podcast partner and get to the show. The Life of Phys Podcast is lit by HoboLight. HoboLight is on a mission to empower creators to elevate their creativity with lighting kits made to last and built to inspire. These lights are bold, beautiful, and powerful because HoboLight believes that your lights deserve to be seen. To learn more, follow them on Instagram at HoboLite.
Well, hello. My name is Monique Campbell, and I am a humanist street photographer from Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. I really enjoy photographing people that I meet out on the street, both candid and camera-aware portraits.
Some of your street photos, I love your work. I look at your work often. You're in my favorites list, as everybody who comes on my podcast is. So a lot of times when you're out, do you approach a person, or do you like to capture it first and then approach them and show them the photo? Or do you like to establish contact, especially if they notice you?
Well, actually, I started out in 2016 earnestly doing street photography, and the majority of my work is candid. I'd say about 98% of the time I make the image and just move on, and people don't tend to see me and see me photograph them. So, I like to work that candid approach. In 2023, I started to really change my perspective and try to do more camera-aware portraits, and that really stretched myself. And for me, it was a big challenge because, as much as I'm an extrovert, I really shy away from approaching people, and so it got me out of my comfort zone. And I really went out there and started to strike up conversations, to introduce myself, and then try to make the photographs. And what I found is that I could do that quite easily. Asking wasn't the issue for me. When they said yes, that's when all my skills seemed to go out the window. And so for me, I have that time, ticking in the back of my head, and thinking that people are just going to say, "Oh, I got to go." And so for me, it's finding a background and setting them up and to pose or not to pose, and all of that comes into question. And it has been quite a journey in this process as well. But again, my comfort level is with the inconspicuous candid photos.
I struggle with the same thing. That's, I'm a big guy. So a big guy with a camera looking at someone, most of the photos they'd have a look of like that intimidation factor. And I'm just trying to capture a moment. I love capturing that moment and then talking to them and showing them the picture. This is what I was shooting. This is why I was shooting it. And if they say, "Oh, please don't use that," I delete it. I don't touch it. I applaud you for being able to go and talk to them. So you are trained. You trained at the Western Pacific Academy of Photography. Sounds fancy. How was that experience?
In 1990, I went to Victoria, British Columbia, and took the 10-month course in photography. And it ranged everywhere from doing commercial shoots to fashion to photojournalism. And over the 10-month period, I learned a lot about, the technical side. And, it was a great opportunity. People from across Canada came to this school and loved Victoria. But unfortunately, there wasn't a lot of jobs there, when I got out. And so I went on to Moose Jaw Times Herald. And in Moose Jaw, Saskatchewan, and I worked there for a couple of years as, the lead staff photographer.
But I think education, especially if you want to do corporate work or you want to learn the technical, real deep technical aspect of it, is very important. More people should take classes and courses, especially if you love it and you want to build a career around it.
I felt it gave me a good foundation at the Western Pacific Academy of Photography, and I really liked the approach where you could learn different genres. And I really gravitated to photojournalism and was lucky enough to have Ted Grant, the granddaddy of photojournalism in Canada, teach the segment to us. And, I like to think of him as my mentor. And he really taught me a lot of things that I still use today.
I don't know if you've listened to episode 2 yet. I had Roxana Ortiz on. She is currently a photojournalist with Como 4 News. And she's an Emmy winner. So she's a very interesting story, military photographer. So it's a good episode to listen to. I love the photojournalism aspect of it. I feel like when you had a newspaper, when you had a tangible item in your hand to read it, it helped it speak its words. I struggle with photojournalism on digital platforms. It doesn't have the same effect. It doesn't have the same kick to me. But that's just me, maybe. I like tangible. I've got photo books everywhere. I just love tangible. I love being able to feel paper, because photo books are important because they choose that paper for their images. So there's a reason they do it.
Well, I certainly have a lot of photo books in my library. My bookcases are just overflowing with all kinds of different genres of photography. And I think you mentioned skateboarders, and I really like to see that because for me, I like to study photographs of skateboarders for the timing. And that helps me, when I'm out on the street and fashion, when you see a character on the street and they're dressed to the nines, and all these things blend well together.
I agree. Skateboard photographers they're so impressive because most of their shots are on fisheye, because that's how close they are to the action. I reached out to Grant Britton, who's one of my all-time idols. I have his book, the cover photo I remembered on the cover of Transworld Skateboard magazine back in, I want to say it was late 80s or early 90s. So I've reached out to him. Hopefully once I have these couple pro skateboarders from Pal Peralta and the Bones Brigade on, that he'll see that I'm a serious person. I'm not just someone wanting to waste his time. So what is your process? You go out, I know you do speakings and you do courses and you travel around, and I'm going to butcher it, but I know you are part of the Women of Street Photography on Instagram. No. Part of something.
I follow them, but I haven't been successful into breaking into that. My friend Jane Gismondi and I discovered her on Instagram a few years ago. And in 2021, we said to each other, we really should try to start a new hub. And so we called it After Vivian. And what we'd like to do is share the work of contemporary women and non-binary street photographers. And, we concentrate on a lot of the up-and-comers as well as the absolute new beginners. And what we're trying to do is try to keep that spirit of Vivian Meyer's work alive by showing, the work of contemporaries today.
Vivian Meyer, her story is unbelievable. Like the fact that she took these incredible photos and no one saw them. And then all of a sudden, here they are and everywhere. I knew you had one. I apologize for calling it the wrong one.
No trouble.
I was trying to browse here really quick to find it, but my eyes aren't working. I'm on 5 hours sleep. So I love the fact that you cater to the women street photographer, the non-binary. That's super important for people to understand that it's all about building a positive community. It's about giving them a space to show their work, and that's how you find new people. That's how you build your inner circle. I've got, there's probably 7 or 8 people that I consider my inner circle. They're people that I know if I have a question, a concern, I need some help on something, I can message one of them and they'll have an answer for me. Instead of going onto this huge platform and just feel like a small fish in a big pond. So that's very important to the Life of Phys. It's part of the community over competition aspect. You've done so many different things. I mean, how long have you been into photography?
I'd have to say all my life. I mean, when I was a young teen, early 13, my folks gave me the family camera. It's a 110 film camera. And I just went out and started making photographs. And, I look back and I'm kind of tickled because, I went with my mother and grandmother back to the old country, to Belgium, to visit relatives. And while I was there, I photographed one of my relatives. And of course, I had her stand at the window, and it was one of those triangular diamond shaped windows with green and white leaded glass, and I had her stand behind it. I went outside and photographed her through the window. Now, what 13-year-old does that, right? And so even back then I had an eye, and I loved composition. And I went on, like I said, to the Western Pacific Academy of Photography and learned the foundation. And I've been a lifelong learner. And, whether it's studying the masters or, contemporary photographers today and artists, I draw my inspiration on everything from sculpture to paintings. And I really believe, by studying other people's work. Some people, they shy away from it. Oh, I don't want to be influenced. Well, actually, we are influenced by everything we see. And I don't know the number or the stat, but it's overwhelming, the number of images that we see in a run of a day. And so, I like to study people. Catherine Tactani is an urban Inuk out of Ottawa, and I discovered her work. And it just seeing her work, as well as others, really influenced me in my own work every day.
Yeah, I do the same. I take inspiration from what's around me, what I see. Sometimes you'll just be walking through, say, a store, and there's a painting on the wall, and you just look, and you're like, oh, that's an interesting perspective. They've taken that composition, and from my eye, I would have been like, oh, I would have been up and to the right, but they're down and to the left. And it just helps open up your vision. I had Michael C. He's at Views from the Trap. He's from Queens, New York. So he shoots what he knows. He shoots his scene. But he said that when he's out, even if he doesn't have his camera, he's taking photographs with his eyes. And that, to me, that was such a great way to explain it, because then he goes home and he sets up his photo shoot or whatever he's going to do in that area. So yeah, I love see how I was mentioning earlier how it all comes around. Everybody has very similar look of what they do, and they all bring it in a different way. It's all worded different, but it's all the same. And this community is growing quickly, and it's fantastic. So what is your current gear setup? What do you leave the house with? What do you like to shoot?
Well, I have a little bit of a disclaimer because I'm not a big gearhead, and I think people should use the camera that they have. What's the expression? The best camera is the one that you have in your hand. And, I started out in street photography using a big DSLR rig, a Nikon D750 with a 24 to 120 mil lens. And I learned to do street on that and be inconspicuous. And currently, I'm using a Fuji X-T5 with an 18 to 55 mil lens. There's some people out there that poo-poo, oh, you zoom lens, oh, it's got to be prime. Use what you got. And I, did wedding photography for a number of years, and the zoom lens is just perfect. If I'm on one side of the street and I see something across the street, I love that capability of being able to zoom in. I recently, since 2019, had breast cancer and had a number of surgeries over the years. And to combat that, because I couldn't lift the Fuji camera, I went out and I got a Ricoh GR3. And it's a great little camera, as we've been talking about, very, inconspicuous to use. And you can get right up into people's faces down the street, and it works out really well as that benefit that it was smaller and lighter for me to lift when I couldn't lift my other cameras.
Well, how are you in remission? Are you doing okay?
I am coming up to 5 years, no evidence of disease. But with cancer, you never know. Down the road, I could rear its ugly head again. But I live every day. And, part of that is being able to not only, I'm not necessarily photographing every day, but in one capacity or another, I am doing something photographically, whether it's editing or reading a photography book, talking to other people. I also like to share my knowledge and my experience as an exhibitor into juried exhibitions. I share that knowledge with my circle of friends as well. So every day I'm doing something photographically.
Well, I'm glad you're in remission. I'm glad it's been 5 years. Cancer is awful. My mom had breast cancer, had to have a dual mastectomy, and it was a struggle. It was a tough time. So I'm very happy to hear that. So talk about these exhibitions. So exhibitions are something that I know it's scary for a lot of people. They just have to jump right in. Do you have any advice for people wanting to get into that aspect of photography?
Well, I use my experience. I started out, I was early when I was living in Kitchener-Waterloo, and my first exhibition was at the public library. And, I really encourage people to start at their local public library and get in there and have an exhibition of their work, whether it's a solo exhibition or a group exhibition. And, really every time you exhibit, you're learning and you're expanding your knowledge of that sense of performing and showing your work and gaining that confidence. And, over the years, I've been exhibiting more and more. Last year I did 17 juried exhibitions here in Ontario and as well as South Carolina, the United States. And, it was a lot of work. What people don't see is all the behind the work, behind the scenes. And, applying and having the images, of course, it's a given. But there is a lot of work behind the scenes. And for me, I thrive on that. Again, going back to Vivian Maier, it's unfortunate that she never realized that in her lifetime for whatever reason. And I just take that to heart, and I want my work to be seen. I'm not making any money, unfortunately, but, in 30, 40 years down the road, maybe there will be an interest in the photographs that I am making currently, especially here in Hamilton where I live, and the characters that are out on the streets. Somebody's going to come back to that in time and recognize them for what they are. And again, for me, I really like exhibiting. I like getting my work out into the world for other people to see.
The 30 to 40 year comment has been on every podcast so far. And I love it because it just shows how people want to be artists. They don't want that. It's not about the quick like and follow. This is a lifetime passion. It's a lifetime project. I don't care about a like or follow today. I want to know, like, in 30 or 40 years, if somebody hangs my photo, that it speaks to the people. That's so crazy. I love it. I feel like photos should be printed. If you have an image that you love, print your image, whether it's a 5x7 all the way up. I mean, I've printed some of my stuff substantially larger than I probably should have with the camera I was using. But I love the texture. I love the fact, again, it's tangible. It's in my hand. And it's a good way to store. When you're doing your shooting and your editing style, How much time do you spend on an image to get it to where you want? Or is it just doesn't matter? You'll take as much time as it takes.
Well, I just want to jump in with a comment. I agree with you about printing. I got a printer, a Pro 1000 Canon. It prints up to 17 by 22. I got it in 2018, and it was a great investment. I'm not printing huge pictures all the time, but I certainly print up, 8 by 10s, and I love to tack them on my bedroom wall. I think it has made me a better photographer, a better printer, and, just casually walking by a photo every day and looking at it and saying to myself, I wonder what could I have done differently, or what do I like about this photo? What's working, what's not? And, subconsciously it gets into your brain. And I'm always recommending to people, even if they don't have a printer, get them printed up locally, a 5x7, and just live with them. It's so important to do that. And I can't say enough about it. When I went to school, I learned the darkroom. And I was not very successful at it, but fast forward to now, when I'm using Lightroom software, I know what needs to be dodged and burned. And, that experience has helped me in my post-production editing. I'm a big believer in telling people to set an intention when you're looking at your photograph. And what do you want to say with that? What mood do you want to give? And also play. Just simply play. Get in there. People ask me, well, what's your presets? And how do you like to set up your post-production? Well, I don't. I get in there and I play. And I'm moving the sliders from one side to the other dramatically and, picking something in between. And really, it comes down to a gut feeling. And I have learned by looking at photographs all these years since I went to school to, right up this morning as I was on Instagram. For me, it's all about playing and what feels right to your gut.
Yeah, that's a great explanation. I edit my stuff either moody or super, super vibrant, but I don't have a set style. I don't believe that everybody in that motto that people are saying that all your photos need to look the same to keep your Instagram. I don't care about Instagram. I care about what I feel in my creative process. When you print a photo and you have it on your wall and you're staring at it, you see a different angle. You see something different you could do next time. So it's a learning moment. And that's what photography to me is. I'm constantly learning. I'm constantly trying to hone my craft. I'm constantly trying to figure out a way to make this a full-time gig. I want to capture moments for people. I want to capture those slivers of time that disappear. Plus, I want to talk to people, and I want people to know that this is a space where they can come and share their story. They can come and get their words out. And sometimes it's a good mental health change. So that's another thing that we always talk about on here is mental health and your creativity. Whether it helps it and whether it doesn't matter. I'd just like to hear your opinion on the mental health to your creativity aspect.
I think photography, doing art, dance, sculpture, whatever it is great for mental health. It gets you out of your mind. It provides a distraction. You get into a flow or a rhythm, and you're not necessarily thinking about all the negative things in your life. And certainly, I've had my bout of mental health issues. And, for years, I was a wedding photographer. I never got into doing personal work at that time. In one capacity, we were up to 27 weddings in a season. And I kind of regret that. I got away from my personal work. And now, since 2016, I've been doing humanist street photography, where I do it for me and, the pleasure that it brings me. And I'm really all about that for people to use that creative, artistic capacity. And I've seen a number of people exhibiting their work that they've overcome mental health issues. And it's so great to see. I've got a friend, Mitchell Brown, in Grimsby, Ontario, and, he goes out of his way to show his struggle and, and how he's overcome it in part, because he's not through the struggle, but how he lives with his issues and makes art out of them.
Yeah, I remember you sent me the link for Mitchell. I believe I reached out to him and we had gone back and forth a little bit, but eventually it will happen.
Well, I'm really excited about my new talk, Faces in the Street, Candid and Camera-Aware People Photography, because I'm building on my first talk, Building Confidence to Shoot Street, that I started in 2021. And what I heard from people, photographers in these camera clubs, is that we want to know, how do you go out and photograph people? And so this new talk is all about that. I talk about my process, and I really share, my experiences in the hopes that it will give them the confidence to go out and make both candid and camera-aware street photography.
I could see the excitement as soon as you started talking about it. I have it on my list. Don't worry. I will watch it and I will send you my notes. So you've been photographing for quite some time. Who are some of your inspirations? Who are some photographers and maybe painters that really caused your creative system to start working?
Well, there's a number of people that influence me and motivate me and inspire me. We've mentioned a few here. Of course, Vivian Maier is one of them. Not much more needs to be said about that, but contemporary photographers that really, I watch and I follow their work, and it influences me in turn. People like Sherry Brunette from Montreal. Amy Horowitz is out of New York City, photographing the East Village. She goes by the handle don't_smile_NYC. And she does a lot of street portraits. And her famous tagline that she tells people is, whatever you do, don't smile. And so I'm influenced by that. And, Don Eagleton out of the UK as well is another person that it really inspires me. She likes to photograph people in windows, in cafes, and she waits for that moment when they see her. And with that acknowledgement, she, tips her hat to them and walks away. And they are just some of the most jaw-dropping photographs with such emotion that really get me excited. And, I could go on and on. And I have photo books and that on my shelf that really show my, seeing people's work in print as well. Helen Levitt. There's just so many I could go on and on that have influenced me. Right from the big name masters to some of the most obscure women working in Indonesia.
That's amazing. I love finding those small accounts that just blow me away. There's just something about them, and the way they capture it, and you just sit and stare, and you learn from it. I saw on your questionnaire here, I saw that, Fred Herzog. He, wow, one of my favorites. He's obviously from where I live. And it helps me remember when Vancouver was a working town before it was what they turned it into. Elliot Erwitt, amazing. If you don't follow, Bettina LaPlante on Instagram, she's an amazing portrait artist. And Elliot and his wife were personal friends of her and her husband's. So I got to hear, she is episode 7 or 8. So I got to hear personal stories of how supportive Elliot was to just go after it. And those are memories and moments that she shared with me that nobody will ever get to hear again, but that he was part of a community and he wanted to build community. It just shows how long community has been important. So, I'm looking forward to looking up Dawn Ingleton and Amy Horowitz. I do not believe I follow either of them. So I will definitely do that.
And I just want to jump in, talking about community, and that's something that I learned from Ted Grant. And he was a big supporter. He worked in, a number of newspapers and across Canada, and he was always there for other photographers. If they had a question or how do you go about doing this, he was always there for them. And I've taken that advice to heart. And I currently have a mentee, shall I say, in St. Catharines that, we've had this ongoing email exchange. We meet up a couple of times a year. And although we are doing different kinds of photography, I believe in sharing that wealth of knowledge. And, like I said, Ted Grant was one of the greats, and he's still spoken fondly by a lot of people in the media across Canada. Again, it's that sense of community and helping each other. I personally don't understand, keeping secrets. I recently watched a big name photographer give a talk, and people on the Zoom chat were clamoring to find out, how do you do this? But unfortunately, it was never discussed. And I in turn, want to take that and with my talks, go out there and show people, hey, this is how I do it. You may do it differently, but this is the way I do it. And these are some suggestions for you. Go out and develop your own style.
Yeah, I think some of the problems with the bigger name photographers is they come from an era where they're worried that someone's going to take their spot. Instead of just sharing the information, they don't have to tell the nitty-gritty, deep, dark ways they make it happen, but they could give a overview. And I believe that would make them feel more connected to the community, not such a gatekeeper to being successful. And that's why, community is a constant building block. The people that are on the Life of Phys podcast, they are all people that can be reached out to on social media, and they will answer your questions. There's no gatekeeping. There's no, I'm not going to give you that because you only have 2 followers. We don't look at follower counts. We just love to see people's passion. And if you have a question, you need an answer, any one of the guests here, myself included, you can reach out, and we'll do our best to help you through that aspect. Do you have any other projects that are coming up, or is your talk your big one? Any exhibitions that you're going to be doing?
Well, currently I have 5 submitted. Currently I have 5 juried exhibitions that I have applied to, and more coming. This is a really big, busy season for me. And in the next week and a half, I'll be finding out whether I've been successful. Like I said, last year I had 17, and I'm already in 5 as of the end of February this year for juried exhibitions. And I recently showed at the Durham Art Gallery in Durham, Ontario, and was thrilled to have my photograph, Havana Stiltwalker, chosen as their top photo in the whole exhibition. So I'm quite happy about that. And although it's small town Ontario, what really thrills me was seeing the level of community support. I went to the opening, and there was over 250 people there for the opening, and at least 6 or 7 community businesses that sponsored the show and the awards. And I'm just thrilled to be part of something like that, where it's such community driven, and that support for the arts.
That's incredible. I was just talking. It's interesting now that I've done more episodes and I've got other photographer and creative aspects on things. And people talk about these events in different ways. So, and then I had another guy on who just did his first gallery, and he was very nervous, very, very worried about it, wanting not to do it. And his fiance said, "It's going to be great. We're going to do it." And when I was interviewing him, his eyes just lit up talking about it. Just so excited about all the people looking at his art. And then he said, and I always knew they found something that drew them in because they put their hands behind their back and stood there and looked at it. So that's such a crazy aspect of photography. You put your stuff out there, you jump into into the unknown realm for the first time, and then you get a response. Either it's going to be not your scene, or it's something you love and you're going to continue to do it. Usually I look at Instagram and talk about your photos, but Instagram's down.
Right? I know. I went in to try to get these names for you, like Sherry Burnett. I'll have to get it for you because, I couldn't. I texted my partner and said, "Can you look this up?" And he said, "No, it's all down."
Yeah,
so.
Facebook and Instagram are down, and Threads.
Yeah.
But I did pull up your website, so we'll have some questions here. You take some amazing photos. The one, the man in the hat with the pharmacy. You see the pharmacy open sign in the background. He's like, I don't know if it's a reflection of him or if he's on the other side. No, it's a reflection. So he's a reflection of a man in a hat. It's got the pharmacy open sign on the right-hand side.
Right. That's one of my early photographs from 2016. I was just learning, and I snapped the picture because I saw the man in the hat, and I fluked it out.
It's definitely similar to the Vivian Maier look. You know, it's kind of what she's after and what she was about. I love it. Or the guy with the big fur coat on, just loving life, walking down the street. It's, man, are these all Hamilton?
A lot of them are Hamilton, unless in one of my galleries, I think around the world or something to that effect.
Yeah, so I clicked on Hamilton Street. So this is all your town. How big is Hamilton?
I want to say 500,000.
Okay. So it's not a super big town.
Not a super big town. You know, we're outside of Toronto, of course, and you know, one popular question I get asked is, what's the hardest city to photograph? And I've got to say Hamilton, where I'm from, because you get so used to seeing the same people and scenes, and you become a little bit jaded after a while. So for me, I like to travel. I just recently got back from Lisbon and Porto in Portugal. And for me, it's great to come back because I have a fresh set of eyes. And I like to, wander the streets again now with that new sense of seeing.
Where I live in Langley, so I live just by the downtown core. And they are starting to tear all the old buildings down to put these, because they just approved high rises here. So they're starting to tear all these old buildings with character down. And I've been trying to capture them. So there was a line of 4 shops, a smoke shop, like a sports memorabilia shop, and a couple other shops in between. So I went by and I noticed it was fenced off. So I stopped and took photos of it fenced off. And then 2 days later, I went back and it was already demolished, gone.
Wow.
And I feel like what they're doing to my small town is so bad. They're putting in $1 million condos in low income areas. They're just trying to push people out. They're trying to push people out of single family homes into condos. And, you know, we've talked about selling our home because they aren't doing any infrastructure updates. So my project currently when I'm out and about is to just capture these old buildings before they're gone. So I'll capture them and then I'll go back once they've torn them down and I'll capture it flat. And just show because I have photos from a year ago or 2 years ago where that was an active work. That was somebody's business that was running. And then it was no windows and behind a yellow fence. And then it's nothing. It's gone. The memories, the history of those people who started those buildings or those businesses is gone. There's no more. And, you know, it's history erased, I guess you could say. So I do feel the same way, though. My eyes get tired of the same thing. You know, I go the same streets same alleys, the same people. And, for me, I don't have to go far to change it up. I can go to New Westminster. I can go to Vancouver to get a different perspective. But I see how going away to a different place, seeing different architecture, seeing different people, and then coming back, you have these refreshed eyes. You see your old buildings and streets that you walked every single day in a different perspective. So it's important for people to understand, like, you feel burnt out, just go to a different area. It doesn't have to be a different country. Just go to a different part of your area. Go to a different town, capture a different town, and it's all going to refresh you.
And for me, I'm lucky because, I have James Street North, and I have Concession Street and Ottawa Street and Locke Street. And again, I'm like you. I like to mix it up and go to these different areas and just simply photograph the people that I see there. And it does help me. I'm fortunate to have been able to go to Lisbon, for example, and thousands of years old these communities are. And in there's more of a sense of keeping the old. And you have these old buildings. And here in Hamilton, they were tearing down willy-nilly some of the architecture. We had City Hall built by the same architecture that did City Hall in Toronto. And, in the 1970s, they just said, yeah, we're done with it, and demolished it. And so now there's a little more sense of trying to keep some of our heritage buildings. But it's just a matter of time that, they say, oh, well, it can't be renovated, so we can't do anything more with it. So down it comes. And, we're losing a great look of our city.
Yeah, they're getting rid of all the classic look. The old architecture is such an important feel. I was watching on YouTube the other day. I was watching Vancouver in the 70s. Somebody had remastered some old video footage, and they were going across, I'm not sure what, Granville Street Bridge probably. And you looked out where the expo site was, and it was just industrial. There was barges and boats lined up, they're working. It wasn't now where you see the yachts in the harbor and everything of current. It makes me so sad to know that this classic look of a town could be just taken away and put a cookie cutter box building in it has no character to it. It's just straight angles. There's no stonework. There's no craftsmanship, I guess. I guess in a way it's craftsmanship because they put a building together and it doesn't fall down. So, but you know what I mean? It doesn't have that aesthetic. It doesn't look like, I don't want to shoot a square building. I want to shoot something with architecture or carvings. Like, we have buildings in the Gastown area that have like Indian chief heads that are carved in stone in these classic buildings. And I don't want to ever see those go away. And now I'm looking at, I guess this is your stilt walker. This is on exhibition now on your page. That's an incredible photo. Incredible talent. Don't know how she didn't fall down. So, South Grey Chamber of Commerce, winner of the Photography Award. Well, congratulations. Must feel good to get the call that you won that award.
It was great to hear that I had won the award, and but I'm not all about the awards per se. It's just nice to be recognized, and I come from a thought process. The expression, "You're only as good as your last shot," and so it motivates me to continually to go out there and make new images.
That's amazing. That's such a good way to look at it. A lot of people would be like, okay, I won an exhibition or my photo was picked. That's all I'm going to do. I'm just going to put my photos there. And they forget that there's more aspects to this craft than just being stuck in one realm. You've been some cool places.
I do love to travel.
I'm looking at the boat. I guess it's Italy. Venetian Laundry Day.
Venetian Laundry Day.
Yeah. And then there's the Blue Hour where the guys in the boat with the people. It's just perfectly framed. I don't know how they have these old buildings with water constantly hitting them, but I don't even understand. I don't know how they don't leak and how they don't fall down. And
well, Venice was a magical place, and I was in there January of 2020. A week after getting home to Canada, they closed the country because of COVID. And that photograph, Venetian Laundry Day, is part of my series. Going back to somewhere 2005, I've been making photographs of laundry on lines. And of course, this was a great addition to that series. That photograph, Venetian Laundry Day, was juried in by the Salt Spring National Art Prize in Salt Spring, British Columbia in 2021. And it was chosen as one of 52 finalists. And there was 2,756 pieces of art that it was juried in. So it was like a tremendous award for me to be chosen. And I was able to go and see the exhibition. And I'm happy to say that piece sold the very next day after the gallery opening. So it was, a thrill for me to have one of my photographs from Venice to be shown, exhibited, and collected.
Wow, that's amazing. Salt Spring's such a great artist community.
I'd love to go back.
It's a beautiful place. So I love the journey. I've only been doing photography for 5 years. It wasn't even in my realm of possibility for a long time. My creative outlet was always skateboarding. And then my body said, no more.
For me, I live by the 3 Ps, and that is practice, perseverance, and passion. And I think, whether you're a photographer, a skateboarder, or artist, whatever it is, if you live by those 3 Ps, I think it'll take you far.
I agree with that. I like the abandoned Chesterfield with the snow coming down. That's right up my alley. I love abandoned everything. I do abandoned barns and houses and cars. They're some of my favorite things to shoot. And this is just straight camera. There's no flash or anything, right?
For the abandoned Chesterfield?
No, for the just for your street stuff. You just walk around.
No. Yeah, I take a very minimalist approach. No flash, for me. I did a number of years in wedding photography where I did have a flash. Yeah, I take a very minimalist approach. I don't use flash. I use available light. I'm kind of a bit of a fair weather photographer. I will get out in the rain kind of thing, but for me, I don't do a lot of night photography. If I'm out traveling, and then of course I make, photographs from, dawn right through to the blue hour kind of thing. But I'm concerned about my safety at night in Hamilton, and I typically don't go out alone to make a lot of night photographs.
Which is understandable. It's the world is definitely a different place now. It's not as safe as it once was. I'm looking at, it's titled Woman in the Hat. There's just so much you can say about that photo, but I love the texture in the skin. I love the lighting. You capture just the right moment. It's neat to look at them and just see, you're obviously your eyes are capturing everything that's happening around you before you snap the shutter. Your compositions are great.
I like to photograph a range of people, whether it's gender or age or social position in the world, sexual orientation, whatever, you name it. I love to photograph the whole gamut. And that's the way I like to see the world. And I like to mirror it back to others, what I see.
And you do a good job of it. The LE17, I don't know if you remember that photo. It's, you're up above.
Le 17.
Yeah.
That photograph was from my hotel window in Paris. And I had the opportunity to exhibit my photograph perspective which was of Mennonite women looking through a gate at the Welland Canal as a ship was coming through, and there was a little boy with them that couldn't see between their skirts. And so he was just bored to tears. And that photograph was chosen by the Salon des Beaux-Arts, and it went on to exhibit at the Carousel du Louvre. Yes, that Louvre in Paris, in the basement. And, it was a great opportunity for me early in my street photography career to go to Paris and, photograph in the shadows and history of the, Henri Cartier-Bresson and Robert Doisneau and André Crétege and all those guys. And it was just an absolute thrill to go there and photograph and as well exhibit while I was there.
That must have been a overwhelming experience. Must have been so to know you were on the lands of some masters and then be able to exhibit as well. Like that's pretty incredible. Where can people find you? What's the best avenue for them to come and reach out to you? Maybe they want to hear your talk, or maybe they have some questions.
Well, my number one is to reach me and see my work through my website, which is momentsbymonique.com. I am on Instagram, moments_by_Monique. I also have another feed as well on Instagram called onhands.by.Monique. And, it's another feed for me where I just show photographs that I have made of people, mostly candids of people's hands out in the public. And that's a little series that is near and dear to my heart. And, on Facebook as well, my business professional page is momentsbymonique_street photography. Well, I really appreciate this. You've got a great voice, not only your physical voice, but what you're trying to put out there into the community. And I've been a big fan of that and look forward to it. I'll kind of ring Mitchell's bell because I think the two of you have a lot to talk about. You're seeing a lot of similarity of what you're trying to do on the West Coast and what he's trying to build here. And I really think, you're going in the right direction. I can't say it enough. I think I can't even remember how you and I connected, probably obviously through Instagram.
I think it might have been maybe Steve Burkhart, Lens of Steve.
Oh, maybe.
Yeah. So Steve's local here in Langley. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of the Life of Phys Podcast. We hope you enjoyed our chat, and don't forget to subscribe and leave us a review. Your feedback helps us continue to bring you content and the stories of our incredible guests. And remember to stay connected with us on all social media platforms. It's at LIFE_OF_PHYS, and discover even more stories from the community over competition movement. Have a great day.